Most people think modern farming was tamed by quiet progress, but the real story behind America's iron giants is one of radical risk, brute power, and relentless reinvention. In 1904, one steam engine changed the fate of the American prairie forever, outpulling teams of horses, rewriting what a single machine could conquer. But how did these titans transform barren fields into engines of national growth, and why have some of their innovations been all but erased from memory? This is where history gets loud, and the earth still remembers every revolution. In 1904, the Case 150 steam tractor thundered onto the prairie. Its steel wheels crushed the grass flat where horse teams once struggled. Company records confirm a 150 horsepower rating, more than 40 horses harnessed into a single machine. The locomotive-style boiler sat low between the axles, a deliberate choice by Case's engineers to keep the center of gravity down and the whole machine steady, even on uneven ground. Massive water tanks holding nearly 20,000 gallons let crews run for hours without stopping to refill. Early farm journal tests measured its output, 20 to 30 acres plowed in a single day, compared to just 2 or 3 for a full team of horses. The ground seas shook as the Case 150 passed, but it was not just about raw power. It was about keeping that power moving day after day with less downtime and fewer men in the field. More than a century later, restorer Corey Anderson rebuilt the Case 150 from original blueprints found in factory archives. In 2018, his replica pulled 25 acres of prairie sod, verified against the numbers from 1904 and settling old debates about the tractor's true strength. Some still argue about the effective drawbar horsepower, but the dynamometer test and the plowed fields tell their own story. As steam's reign continued, a new challenge emerged: how to keep engines running when winter turned the plains into a frozen sea. In the 1910s and the 1920s, the Rumely OilPull answered with a different approach. Instead of water, it circulated engine oil to cool the motor, sidestepping the constant threat of freezing. Its low-speed, heavy flywheel engine delivered steady torque at 500 to 800 revolutions per minute. Operator diaries from Montana and the Dakotas describe oil pulls running through 3 winters without a seized piston, outlasting gasoline rivals that stalled in the cold. Where the Case 150 had conquered the prairie with brute force, the Rumely OilPull kept the work going when the mercury dropped. Lifespans of 5,000 hours were common, and uptime stretched to nearly 90% in the harshest conditions. On the American frontier, reliability was not a luxury, it was survival. In 1929, the Massey-Harris GP rolled onto the fields of Manitoba, its 4 equal-sized wheels gripping the muddy ground during the Winnipeg tractor trials. Unlike earlier machines, the GP used true 4-wheel drive, distributing power evenly and keeping all tires in contact with the earth. Field reports from those trials tell of steep slopes and slick clay that defeated 2-wheel drive rivals. Operators who once dreaded rollovers on wet hills found themselves turning safely even with heavy implements in tow. Farm Journal called it a safety revolution, and accident records from the period back that up. Rollover incidents dropped nearly in half where the GP worked. The new drivetrain let farmers cut tighter rows and work land others avoided, changing how entire fields were laid out. Not every experiment found a home in the heartland. In the 1930s, Ford engineers built the Snow Devil, a machine designed to conquer deep drifts and frozen farm roads. Its propulsion system looked more like a pair of giant metal augers than wheels, twin screws that spun through snow and ice, pushing the tractor forward where tires would only spin. On paper, it promised year-round access for isolated farms. In practice, military memos from the era detail how the screws wore down quickly and struggled on bare ground. Steering was unpredictable, and the prototype spent more time in the workshop than on the job. By 1935, the project was shelved in favor of tracked vehicles. But the Snow Devil's radical approach to mobility left a mark on engineers who kept searching for better answers. After the war, American farms demanded new solutions for smaller plots and delicate crops. The Allis-Chalmers Model G arrived with its engine mounted at the rear, freeing up a clear line of sight over the front-mounted implements. Powered by a modest 10-horsepower Continental engine, the Model G let a single operator plant weed and cultivate with a precision that horses and earlier tractors could not match. Curators at the Allis-Chalmers Museum recall how this design allowed one person to do the work of a whole crew, especially in orchards and truck gardens. The Model G's unconventional layout proved that seeing the soil and the work itself could matter just as much as horsepower. By the end of the 1950s, mobility and operator visibility had become as important as raw strength, setting the stage for even more ambitious designs to come. By the mid-1950s, American engineers were obsessed with extracting more power from every drop of fuel. In Ohio, the Oliver XO-121 became a test bed for high-compression gasoline engines, built with Ethel Corporation to push the limits of combustion chemistry. SAE records show the XO-121 running at 12-to-1 compression, far beyond what farm engines had ever attempted. Tetraethyl lead was the secret weapon, letting engineers chase higher efficiency and output without engine knock. But internal memos at Ethel hinted at a darker side. Airborne lead became a growing health concern even as the industry pressed on. The XO-121's experiments shaped the next wave of engine design, locking American agriculture into a dependency on leaded fuels for another generation. A few years later, Allis-Chalmers engineers took a different path. In 1959, they built the first practical fuel cell tractor powered by hydrogen extracted from propane right on the farm. The fuel cell stack produced 20 horsepower, enough to pull a plow for a short time. Allis-Chalmers reports detail the hurdles. Hydrogen production was inefficient, and the delicate membranes inside the stack struggled with the Midwest's cold. Safety rules and steep costs kept the tractor from mass production, but the demonstration stunned the industry. An Allis-Chalmers curator remembers the day it ran, calling it a glimpse of a future where clean energy might finally challenge diesel's dominance. At the same time, international harvester and solar aircraft teamed up to create the HT340 turbine tractor. Its gas turbine spun at tens of thousands of revolutions per minute, paired with a hydrostatic transmission borrowed from aircraft design. SAE test data confirmed the turbine could reach 100 horsepower, but its narrow torque band and heavy fuel thirst made it impractical for field work. Cockpit gauges borrowed from aviation gave it a futuristic edge. The numbers did not lie. Diesel engines still delivered more usable power at a lower cost. Each of these machines, chemical, hydrogen, or turbine, offered lessons, but none could dethrone the diesel workhorses that defined American farming. In 1961, John Deere's bold leap into articulated four-wheel-drive power met an unexpected reckoning. The 8010, equipped with a Detroit diesel engine producing just over 200 horsepower, arrived on farms with high expectations. Within months, field reports flooded Deere headquarters. Transmissions were slipping, sometimes seizing outright under heavy loads. Internal memos describe a scramble. Dealers pulled nearly every 8010 from service, and engineers dissected gearboxes late into the night. Deere offered full buybacks or field swaps, and the company moved quickly to redesign and release the improved 8020. Fewer than 20 of the original 8010 tractors survive. Each a reminder that scaling up is not just about adding horsepower, it is about building every link strong enough to handle the strain. 16 years later, the lesson had taken root. In 1977, on the wide plains of Montana, the Big Bud 747 was born, not as an experiment, but as a working answer to the needs of mega farms. Built by Northern Manufacturing for the Rossi brothers, this tractor dwarfed anything that came before. Its Detroit diesel 16 Fe92 engine delivered approximately 760 horsepower, making it the most powerful farm tractor ever put to work. 8 massive tires, each nearly as tall as a man, spread the machine's weight across the soil, cutting compaction and letting it pull implements over 100 feet wide. The build sheets list custom axles and reinforced frames, evidence of lessons learned from past failures. For the men who ran it, the experience was unforgettable. One operator put it simply: 8 tires cut compaction, halved field passes. It felt like driving a locomotive through mud. Big Bud's success was not just about size or spectacle. It was about efficiency, covering more ground with fewer passes, using engineering to turn raw power into practical results. Where the 8010 stumbled, Big Bud delivered, proving that the greatest leaps forward often grow from the hardest-earned lessons. Today, a single tractor can feed over 100 people, proof that bold engineering shapes not just harvest, but civilization itself. As technology accelerates, our food security depends on new giants yet to be imagined. The next revolution may already be idling in a field nearby. Thanks for watching.